Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Sulentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. Thanks for listening. Our guest is Zach Bush, coach of the AfterShocks. It's time for the basketball tournament. It's coming up very quickly here. Zach is in his fourth year as head coach of the AfterShocks. They play on July 20th, noon, against Midtown Prestige at Koch Arena. It will be televised on FS1. Midtown Prestige is also a Wichita-based team, and they have several local athletes who are on the roster or helping them coach. Zach played at Wichita State from 2012 to 17. He is now assistant boys basketball coach at Bellevue West in Bellevue, Nebraska, and state championships are just following him around. His wife, Jalen, is an assistant coach for the Creighton women's basketball team. So, Zach, let's get started. You can update people on your coaching career. How are things going at Bellevue West?
It's been great. We had a great first year. I had a great first year. I'm at a terrific program. Couldn't have gotten luckier. Can't be more blessed. They have been to, I want to say it's now 5 straight state championship games, or either 5 out of 6 years or 5 straight. It's 4 in a row for sure. Back-to-back state champs up here. And it's been awesome. Super lucky to be here. It's absolutely nothing I've done. I got super lucky, jumped into Andover at the right time and got to ride those guys' coattails to a state championship. And same thing up here this last year. We were 27-1, had a great team, had Gatorade Player of the Year up here in Nebraska. And there's kind of a common trend in my life. I seem to ride the right coattails. It happened to Wichita State, it happened to Andover, it's happening here. So hopefully that trend continues somehow.
That's got to be a full credit for you for putting yourself in the right situation, definitely. Duties at Bellevue West, what are you responsible for?
So on the teaching side, I'm high school PE up here. Last year, spent majority of my time in the weight room all day, and then had an aquatics class that I taught. Knew very little about aquatics going in. Still know very little, but nobody's drowned yet. So hey, that's a good sign. On the basketball side, it's been a lot of fun. Our varsity kind of coaching staff group is our head coach, Steve Klein, myself, our JV coach, Matt Lauritsen. The 3 of us kind of tag team everything together as far as the varsity goes. So scouting, practice, individual workouts in the preseason and outside of the season. We work out quite a bit up here. So morning workouts before school, and then in the weight room with the guys after school at pickup sessions, all that kind of stuff. And just any odds and ends where I'm needed outside of that, but a lot of film, a lot of scouting, and a lot of prep and practice.
You still get out on the court and display your talents. Are you allowed to do that as a high school coach?
I'm allowed. I do not. I have gotten a little bit out of shape. I'm working on getting back into shape, but my basketball days might just be behind me. I think I'm turning more into a pickleball and a golfer. Play a little bit of pickleball with Jalen, and then I try to get out there and swing the club in the summer. But my basketball days, I just can't be what I once was, and can't come to terms with that. Not real athletic anymore, so I think it's behind me.
That's disappointing to hear. Have you ever gone up to Creighton and played in their noon pickup games in their old gym?
Jim Flannery is a legend up here in his morning pickup games. I don't know if I could keep up with those old guys. I know Jalen and I know someone else that plays in it, and we've talked about I need to get up there and I need to keep playing. I jumped in pickup one time with our high school guys last year and had a blast. And sometimes you forget how much you miss playing until you get back out there. So I probably need to.
I played in that Creighton game one time. You need to do it just to say that
Yeah.
you've done it. Okay, Omaha, great town. Wichita State fans would have been up there many, many times over the years. Had good memories, especially when the Shockers won. Have you got a favorite restaurant? What do you do to kill time in Omaha when you're hungry?
Yeah, Jalen and I love to go out to eat. And especially with us both being coaches, during season, it's tough to get home and cook after practice. So we have quite a few favorite spots, but, this is not the most probably exciting answer, but man, we have Raising Cane's up here. Raising Cane's is my spot. We also live like 2 minutes from a Chick-fil-A, so we frequent there, but there's some awesome local sports bars that we like here and just like trying different stuff, but we're definitely foodies.
Okay, always enjoyed Omaha, definitely. Okay, let's get to the AfterShocks. Last summer, AfterShocks drew a tournament record 7,202 people for a quarterfinal game. People's passion in Wichita to see this team just continues. What's kept the AfterShocks fresh?
I think the continuous drive to want to win the tournament. It's been a lot of fun every summer, and for different reasons. Obviously, the fans are a big part of that, but the kind of carrot that's dangling out in front of the guys is to try to win the whole thing. And I think it's easy to have that carrot out there when you've actually had a little bit of success. It's not this kind of dream that you're trying to sell the guys of, oh, there's this awesome tournament, you can win $1 million. I think it's that goal is more real and realistic for us, being that we've played in this and we've been really close. 2 years ago, we were literally one basket away from being in it. We needed to get a stop and hit a three, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do so. But we've tasted success in this, so that keeps guys hungry. But then on the flip side, I think just being back in front of the fans, you can never get enough of that feeling. It's hard to describe. It's nostalgic. It's exciting. It just makes you smile. And every time the guys come back, you see it on their faces when they get to be back in that arena, and look up at those banners that they help put up, those conference championships, the tournament banners, and then seeing former players who maybe aren't even playing back in the section and in the Champions Club before or after the game. So that brotherhood is a big piece of it.
And there will be another reunion. There'll be former Shockers invited back. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Ryan Hillard and Gretchen do such a fantastic job of that, and then Ron Baker helps them out a little bit, but they always put that invite out and do a great job of getting ahead of it and sending out an invitation early in the summer, letting everybody know that, hey, TBT's coming back. Here's when it's going to be. You are invited back. So that's a big thing, I think, especially for some of the older generation who maybe before TBT, they hadn't really been back, or, if they had, there wasn't an opportunity for them to maybe see other players from other eras or spend time with one another or meet Coach Mills. So we always see this as a great opportunity to reunite everybody and to keep that family feel strong. And I know Coach Mills and his group are really excited to have everybody back again.
I'm glad you mentioned Ryan Hillard and Gretchen Torline, because they are very much part of the connective tissue that, people know them going back many, many years. I think they're an important part of getting the old guys back. When I texted you to set this up, I looked at our previous exchange. It was me complaining about how the AfterShocks gear looked. It is much improved. Are you responsible? Do you get credit for improving the look of the AfterShocks gear?
I get no credit, and I would like to put it out there that I also have been disappointed in years past. TBT, I think it's hard for them. Obviously, they have so many different things that they're dealing with, from sponsorships and trying to help get teams funded and off the ground. But that is an area I have thought we've lacked. Maybe one of these years we can get ahead of it, set it up to where we get some creative flexibility. Jr. Simon is pretty good with that kind of stuff, having dealt with his own clothing brand. So we need to get on that. We've talked about it. It's just been one of those things we haven't gotten out in front of. But I'm glad to know they have your approval at least this year, that it's a little bit better at least.
I was pleasantly surprised. There's some good stuff on there, much better than it has been in past years. Okay, so a lot of success. I think the AfterShocks are 11-4 in their years in TBT. What's the big picture? How do you describe why this team has been able to be successful?
I think familiarity with one another is a big piece of it. It's not like, we're bringing in 10 guys who everybody wants to be the alpha dog scorer, leading scorer of the team, and all that. We have the benefit of having at least 6 to 7 alumni players every year who either played with each other or just through coming to school here are familiar with each other's games. So that typically blends well. When you have a guy like Rashard, who played with Conner, played with Darral, played with Marcus, et cetera, he knows their game, so he knows how he can add value. He knows how they can add value. Just that familiarity piece, I think, is something that's underrated. And I think it's why when you see alumni teams who play in this, that have guys that did play together in college, they typically do pretty well. And I think it's because no one tries to outdo one another. There's an ease of how everybody's game blends with one another. So that's been great. Outside of that, fans have created an unbelievable atmosphere. We haven't always played great in this. It seems like more games than not, we have not shot the ball well for whatever reason. But, it seems like the crowd is just like it was when we were in school. They feed on us getting stops, hustle plays, block shots, steals. So every time something like that happens, the roar grows a little bit, makes it a little bit tougher for the opposing team to knock down shots. And they've kept us afloat at times. So I think those are two big pieces.
Playing at home is definitely helpful. I'll run through the former Shockers on the roster real quick. Alteric Gilbert on the 2021 NCAA team. You mentioned Conner Frankamp, Darral Willis. Marcus McDuffie is back, Rashard Kelly, and Trey Wade. I don't know that anybody has more TBT highlights than Conner Frankamp. He's really been the darling of the highlights. This tournament really seems to play to his strengths. Why is that?
It's hard to say exactly why, but it seems like maybe he is, and maybe I've talked about it in the past, but he's gotten comfortable, I think, with who he is as a player. Maybe in college that was more difficult for him at times. Not necessarily always, his strength, what we were, maybe necessarily wasn't Connor's strength. We were known for toughness and, physicality. And I love Connor to death and he's like a brother, but Connor would be the first one to tell you, like, I'm maybe not the quote unquote toughest or strongest out here, but he shoots the ball incredibly well, and he did have a lot of success in college. But now, as a professional, just the way the game has moved, with having guys who have the ability to shoot the ball, he thrives. So I think getting to come back is really cool for him because I think maybe he gets to show the player that he really is. And maybe he thought at times at WSU, he wasn't able to display that. Just, when you try to blend into a team and, you're trying to do what a coach asks of you and you're trying to do, all the right things, sometimes guys sacrifice a little bit of themselves. So I think now that he's a pro, he's kind of playing to his strengths. And then for us, he gets to be exactly that. And then I think that's exciting for him to get the fans to see him again and to show what he can do and to be kind of like that player he was in high school where he's got the ball in his hands a ton, kind of being one of the leading scorers for us. All those factors, I think, contribute to him, all the highlights and the ability to make shots. And then on top of that, he's always been a guy who has made big shots in his career. And, in TBT, it just presents that opportunity with the Elam ending. You're always going to have the opportunity, for a game winner with the way it ends. Instead of, a clock running down, you're playing to that target score. So he's just naturally kind of taking the reins on that. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch, and I'll give him credit because, as you say, he's not physically imposing, and there are times in this tournament where you can tell the opposition will really try to target him and pick on him. And in my eyes, at least, he battles and he fights, and he's not going to let you push him around without really scrapping, and that's been impressive to watch. Physical, rangy wing defenders, Marcus McDuffie, Rashard Kelly, Caleb Walker is not a shocker, but he's back on this team, and Zach Brown in previous years. That really seems like that's been a trademark of the AfterShocks. I guess this is kind of a captain obvious basketball question, but why are those types of players so important?
Yeah, they're huge. Obviously, going into TBT our first couple of years, you don't know exactly what you need, but then you just kind of simplify it. You're like, what has worked for us in college? And that's guys who are long, like you said, physical wing athlete defenders. And then when we saw it on the floor, it was like, okay, the way we defend is a whole lot easier when we have 3-4 guys out there that can switch. Love you to death, Connor, but we typically try to stay away from switching with Connor. But it just comes to mind some of those really good regional final games here, like when we played Sideline Cancer, Challenge ALS. Especially late in the game, we always had 3 of those types of players, and they were able to switch and kind of negate anything that the offense was trying to do. They could guard on the ball or off the ball, and then on top of that, they can hold their own if they get switched onto a big, being able to box out, finish a possession with a rebound. So just the simplicity of what it does to your defense. And then offensively, they give you the ability to crash the O glass. And then fortunately, those guys are, crafty enough to be able to make plays for themselves or others and then shoot the ball well. So that kind of ability to do multiple things and not be locked into a size. Like you're not having to put 6'2" guys out there, but you've got 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", and they can all do kind of the same thing.
Have you taken much of a look at the bracket? Who should AfterShocks fans really be paying attention to as some of the best teams in the tournament?
Yeah, it's a really fun one this year. I know it seemed like we've said that almost every year, but this year, 8 teams instead of last year. We hosted 2 different regionals here, but one regional you got 8 teams. You have 5 alumni, and then 3 that aren't alumni. 2 of the ones that aren't alumni are really good. Fans might remember one of them. We played 2021 in the quarterfinals. Florida TNT. They're a team that consistently plays in TBT. Always really good. Some former Florida guys or guys with Florida ties. And then there's a team that plays in something called a Drew League out in the summers out in LA, called the LA Cheaters. They came here a few years ago, brought former Arizona player, NBA guy Derek Williams with them. They're talented. On the alumni side, I think the fans are really going to like it. You got the Colorado group, who is a veteran. They've played in this, and they have Andre Roberson with them, who played for the Thunder. If fans remember him early in those Kevin Durant years. And then KU group is really talented. I won't lie. I really like the three in-state teams have put together really good groups this year. The KU group is as talented as they've ever been, bringing in former National Player of the Year Frank Mason. He'll make them go. Anytime you have a point guard in this like him, you're going to do well. They got great guard play with Malik Newman. Obviously, bringing back Thomas Robinson inside. He's a force. K-State group with Jacob Poland, Barry Brown, Xavier Sneed. Those are all guys who, made deep tournament runs at Kansas State. So incredible in-state talent. And I think, if nothing else, that should really have the fans excited to watch good basketball of guys that they're familiar with.
Yeah, we haven't had none of those teams have matched up. They've managed to miss each other for every year they've been here. You would think at some point that is going to change. Favorite moment from the short history of the AfterShocks? What game or what shot, what moment stands out?
I think the easy one is to say Conner's shot in, I want to say it was 2022 against, maybe it's 2021 against Challenge ALS when we won here. We had a record crowd that night, and it felt like it wasn't, but it felt like 10,000 fans were in there. It was incredibly loud. Fran Fraschilla was on the call, I believe, and, just kept mentioning this crowd's just unbelievable. And then, the great call from the guy who did play-by-play that night. Conner gets out. We get a stop with Zach Brown in the game. Like you had said, we had multiple wings. I think Marcus Rashard and Zach were in the game. Zach switches, kind of, gets a contested tough three in the corner that he had maybe got a fingertip on. We get the ball, outlet it to Tyrus McGee, up the floor, Frankamp, hits the three on the wing, and then Conner, running around, and it was kind of people's first time ever seeing Conner show a lot of emotion. So that's probably number one. Number 1A, and I got to throw a shot at my wife here, was against the Creighton alumni team when somehow they cough it up right at the end of the game to us. It looks like, we're going to fold down the stretch and give one away, but we end up stealing it in the backcourt. Conner lays it in. We go crazy. And then there's just great photos of their players standing there, like looking at each other, and we're jumping on each other going crazy. So those are probably my two favorites, but every Elam ender seems like it's exciting and just makes you laugh. And it's cool seeing the photos of the fans. You can always see them. They're going crazy as if it's an NCAA tournament game.
Those are two good ones, definitely. Newcomers on the roster, run through them real quick for the people.
Yeah, so predominantly same group we've had in the past. A couple new guys. Jeremiah Martin. First one I'll talk about. Jeremiah was really good player at Memphis. I believe you would probably know this, being who you are. I want to say player of the year his senior year in the American. Maybe not, but at least I want to say could have been leading scorer in the league. But
he was all-conference in 2019, first team all-conference, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So really good player at Memphis, right towards the start of, Penny's career was when Jeremiah's career was ending, but, just a solid player that got better over the course of his college career. And then he actually played for Beale Street Boys last year, that Memphis alumni team. If fans remember them, they were about to spoil that 10-year reunion Final Four group. That was the night that group was getting recognized. We're down like 20 at halftime to them. Jeremiah's killing us. Fortunately, we were able to pull out a win, but he was just awesome. So kind of always stuck in my head. He was the type of player we had looked for, somebody that was, could play on the ball or could play off the ball and can really carry the scoring load. So just worked out that he was available. Beale Street wasn't playing. Memphis isn't too far away. So he was really interested, and we were able to work that out with him coming. So really excited for fans to see him. New big man this year, Jabari Narcisse. Jabari played at Texas Arlington, and then has played this last year in Japan. Big body, physical on the block, which is something you always need. I think he's the type of guy fans will appreciate, competes really hard. Outside of that, I want to say, I'm not looking at the roster in front of me. Is anybody else new? Caleb
looks like those
back.
Are the new Caleb Walker's back, and Jordan Parks is back.
Yep. So fans will remember those two guys, but those two new guys we think will add a good pop for us. We've loved our groups in the past, but felt like we're maybe missing a little bit of scoring punch at guard. So I think Jeremiah can provide that. And then, like I said, I think Jabari will be great inside, battling with the bigs, competing on the glass.
Yeah, take us behind the scenes a little bit for a player like Jeremiah Martin. Like you said, he was all conference at Memphis. He briefly played in the NBA. Looks like he's playing a pretty high level overseas. What's the recruiting process to land a guy like that?
Yeah. So first step is usually try to see if there's a connection. Talk with your guys. Like fortunately, Rashard, Marcus, Conner, Darral have all played overseas for quite a few years now. So they're starting to kind of gain a network of guys they either know, have played with, or know somebody that knows somebody. That's typically how it goes in this. With Jeremiah, that wasn't super the case. It was more just we had seen him. I had kept my eye on him. When I heard that Beale Street wasn't playing, I was able to track down a cell phone number for him and just reach out and say, hey, here's who we are. And fortunately, I think when guys have played in TBT, and especially if they've played in the Wichita Regional, they have, some respect for us and know that we're legitimate and that one, we have a good shot to go deep in this tournament. And then two, it's a great environment to play in. So pretty easy conversations typically with guys like that when we ask, and, they're very complimentary of the fans. So I know at times the fans may be like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we getting a Memphis kid? But, putting together a roster is not easy, especially when not everybody you ask is just willing to play. Like, I'll go on record right now. Joe Ragland has an open invite if he ever wants to come run the point for the AfterShocks. He knows that. I beg him every summer. I try to, get Clevin to talk to him, and it just hasn't worked out. And, that's completely fine. Every guy, does something different with their summer. But, for us, it was about finding the right fit. Jeremiah was that, and he was open to playing. So, like I said, he's very complimentary of the fan base and mentioned multiple times on the phone, like that crowd is awesome that you guys have. And I've always, had an appreciation for them. So I think it's going to be a really good pair.
I'm glad you mentioned Joe Ragland because here would be my pitch to Joe. And apparently I know he's just had an awesome overseas career. I get all of that, but I think it would be really fun and really good because he's from that era a little bit, he's before
Yeah.
the Final Four. I think
Yep.
they get overshadowed by what came after them, Ron Baker,
Absolutely.
Fred VanVleet. And
And that team is arguably better than that Final Four team. I'm pretty sure you would agree with me with Joe, Teray, DK, Ben Smith. Like those guys were awesome. So I'm 100% with you.
yeah, that 11-12 team was very good. Went up to Creighton and ran them out of the gym up there when they were nationally ranked. Very good. And Joe, you look at his senior year, that's as good an offensive year. That ranks up there with anybody. That
Yeah.
guy was really, really good as a senior. And I would think it would be fun for him to come back just to give people who maybe jumped on board 2 years later or something a chance to go back and see, boy, that Joe Ragland, that guy could really play.
Yeah,
That's
I'm gonna have to put you on staff just to have you give that recruiting pitch right there. Because yeah, I'm with you. I want Joe more than probably we want anybody.
Yeah. Take us through a little bit of the recruiting. When do you start making phone calls? When do you start getting your roster put together?
Yeah, so year to year, it's a little bit different. We've been fortunate that we kind of have, wouldn't say quite a contract, but almost like a running deal with TBT a little bit that as long as things keep going well, they're going to keep coming back here. So as soon as we get the okay from them, Garrett does a great job of working with them. And as soon as we kind of get, general ideas of dates, they work with us first saying, hey, assuming that the guys are in, does this, kind of all look good? So usually I want to say around December or so, we kind of get word that we're probably going to do it again. And then start reaching out to your core guys because obviously being an alumni team, you don't have just free reign of choosing anybody. You got to, start with your alumni group. So typically, first 3-4 calls are Conner, Marcus, Rashard, Darral in no particular order. Make sure the gang wants to get back together. Trey Wade is, joined that group. Trey's been so awesome for us. So it usually starts around December, January, which is hard because they're in the middle of, the bulk of their season. And, mentally, a lot of them are like, man, I just can't wait to come home. I don't want to think about doing anything else but getting back to my hometown. So it's a fine line between, hey, making sure we're good to go again, and then, giving them some breathing room so you don't overwhelm them. But typically goes like that. And then, as we get closer, it seems like once they get back to the States, they're more excited to talk about things. And then, if we need non-alumni help, that's when we kind of start talking with them about that and seeing if they have any ideas of guys we should play with. But our group's been really easy to work with. And fortunately, when you have a pre-existing relationship with them like I did, everybody's just a text away. So it's been nice.
So this group has been together for many years. I'm sure there is a plan for, as these guys start to age out of TBT, are you keeping an eye on current Shockers? Or more recent
Absolutely.
Shockers, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pretend like these guys aren't ever going to age, but knowing the way my own body feels when I go play, I know it's going to happen to them at some point, being that we're all relatively the same age. But fortunately, I think we still got a few years where they're in their primes. But definitely, guys, it's been great for them. It's been terrible for me. Craig Porter, Dexter Dennis, Ricky Council are all, either solidified kind of in the NBA or on the cusp of making it. So, those are just three initially that, we were licking our chops for. We actually last summer, leading up to the summer, right before kind of summer league happened, Craig was willing to come play, and we were really excited. And then things transpired how they did with, he had a really good summer league, and then, gets this two-way deal. And so thankfully for him, that all happened. But we definitely like to keep our eye on the guys. And I think that's what's exciting about, having Coach Mills here and retaining the whole group of players essentially that he did last year is you're going to have guys who build a love for Wichita State and the basketball program. And so we hope that continues because, that's a stable that could continue to feed us.
You mentioned Garrett Stutz and J.R. Simon, assistant coaches. Describe their roles. Who's in charge of what over on that bench during the chaotic moments of a TBT game?
Yeah, so not only the bench, but off the court stuff. There's a ton that goes into TBT that maybe we didn't all realize before we did it. But just from organizing, like somebody's got to, handle, getting the guys' flights, getting those set up, paying for those, getting the hotel set up, getting the meals set up, our shooting shirts, all different things like that, setting a schedule for meals. So we all kind of share in those duties. Garrett takes care of typically the financial side of it. I do a lot of scheduling, reaching out to restaurants, reaching out to sponsorships. A fun new addition this year is Brett Barney, former walk-on with us. We brought Brett on. He's been doing some fundraising for us and working with companies with sponsorships. He's done an awesome job. JR does a lot with anything with design, with T-shirts, and then obviously, when the games start, Garrett and JR handle the subs because I'm too locked in and going crazy in my own mind and worrying about what we need to do offensively or defensively. So those two, have a huge responsibility in this. We all, like I've said before, we all kind of share in it. I don't see really one of us as being higher than the other, but those guys are great. I couldn't do it without them, especially, at practice. We do, believe it or not, with the way we've shot the ball, we do practice for about 5 days leading up to TBT. So they're great to have. Garrett always takes the big men. JR and I work with the guards, then we come together. And it's been just kind of a perfect match.
The AfterShocks, they play on July 20th versus Midtown Prestige. The winner of that faces the winner of the Purple Rain, which is the Kansas State team. They play Team Colorado right after on July 20th. And then the winners will match off on July 22nd. Also in the Wichita Regional, the KU alumni team and the Colorado State alumni team. Zach Bush is the head coach of the AfterShocks. Zach, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Paul. Good to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
It's over. It is over. Ladies and gentlemen, say it slowly and savor it. Wichita State is going to the Final Four for the first time in 48 years.
Unbelievable. What a scene, folks. The Shocker fans are just going crazy in the stands.
Just maybe the greatest win in the history of Wichita State basketball.